Welcome to the Military to Civilian InTransition podcast, where we demystify and simplify the process of transitioning from the military to civilian world. This podcast is brought to you by the Centers for Military and Veteran Reintegration and National Veterans Transition Service, leaders in transitioning your life after service. And now, here is your host, retired Master Chief Petty Officer Maurice Wilson.
Welcome to the Weekly Muster. Each week, we discuss critical topics related to transitioning from the military and reintegrating to civilian life. The muster is open to everyone, connected or not connected to the military, who is searching to understand or support veterans and their families and the challenges they face when reintegrating back into the civilian sector. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our moderator, Dr. Rich Nicholson, co-author of Week 2 of the Reboot Workshop, the nation's only reverse boot camp, and the Operation Legacy Life Planning Workbook. Rich, over to you.
Thanks, Maurice, and it's good to be back, everyone. Welcome back. This week, we're continuing the topic last week, which is really the future of the American Legion, because we ticked it off by saying they have a very senior membership, and they are not getting the numbers of new members in like they would like to, and they seem to be really leaning towards the attrition side of things. They're losing members much faster than they're gaining members, and we were doing a deep dive dialogue on what we think might be the situation, what's the root cause, and what are some things we could do about it. So we're going to continue with that today because we had a lot of excitement about that. And Pete sent me in a lot of things. So after I go through just real quickly what we did last week, I'm going to go to some of the things that Pete sent and then ask Pete if he could just give us his thought processes on some of those, if that's okay. So,
Hey, Richard, if I could just chime
yes.
in, I would love to hear from, let's say, the millennials on this call, their perspective of the American Legion, because I think this might be one of those key and very interesting podcasts that we can share with the rest of the world. So just a footnote on that. Back over to you.
Right, and we were talking about the value of this call and this muster cohort. We have, not only do we have veterans from different generations, but we have non-veterans that are family members or friends of veterans or just of the military community. So we get this really diverse perspective, and it's all really good. So last week we were having the dialogue about, why is it could be coming extinct and kind of going out of business through attrition and lack of new members. And so we started brainstorming what were some things coming to mind, like generational differences. You have a younger generation worldview and a more elder generation worldview. Both sides have fears, different fears. We talked about the value of understanding the history to move forward and then honoring that history. Showing value of both generations and finding common ground where they could work together. Talked about listening, having both sides listening to one another to be able to address issues and come up with new ideas. Inclusive activities, and really understanding that there's certain life cycles within organizations and they need re-energized from time to time. Both sides have skills the others can gain from, whether it's high tech or high touch. And we talked about motivation of people, values and threats, changing things out of desperation or inspiration, those sorts of things. So we started this last week, and then I want to thank Pete for actually sending me information during the week. And Pete, I hope it's okay if I pull this up because you did some brainstorming of your own and some deeper thinking. I was wondering if just kind of like maybe in general terms or pick out a few of these that you sent me, what was your thought process and as you were going through and providing some more brainstorming for us?
Let me take myself off of mute. Yes, I think using the root cause as a guideline, a template to design engaging lessons that reward, stimulate, and get commitments. Make our American Legion, our members feel part of the team, engaged, needed, and demonstrate that maybe a program of active engagement that has reward, that we value what they bring to the mission. I know it's important in the services to show value and bring our strengths to the table so that we can win as a team. So the members need to see that as a team and individually they can uh, engage in as we move forward. And what does that move forward look like? But show them what the future of American Legion can look like, being like the number one that Congress has designated as a I forget the name, as a valued organization serving all of America and veterans' needs, for not putting that in a better capsulation, if you will. But they have something. They've always had something, and it does seem like some things have fallen on neglect, if you will. But we can bring in younger people. We can stimulate new membership, and there are several ways to do that by showing them the strengths that Battle Buddies peer navigation can bring and stimulate, inspire, provide navigation assistance to the overwhelming number of service offerings. This can show them how we can become a beacon to all our veterans and their families. That can be exciting, stimulating. And so we must value every member, new and old. I don't like the word old, but and then if you get to page 2, I mean, yes, there are AI systems already in place that Anthem say is using. Well, it's not. And it's working slowly and gradually. That it increases the call volume, and also not just the call volume of answering the call the first time. We can build in resources where that first call is the most meaningful. And if not, we have a warm handoff, and we make sure we follow up that veteran American Legion is taken care of. The last point is, well, Pete, what is a tool? Simply, I've looked at appreciative inquiry, and there might be some, situations where I don't see the value in using this tool, but have a look at what's on the screen. I'll answer any questions the best that I can, but it really, look at the word itself, appreciative. We need to be appreciative of what, again, American Legion members can bring to the table. Look at their long history. And so having the latest tools, have people energized and committed, get their commitment, we can make a change. And we can make a change because they are answering themselves, what is changing, what is the best future for American Legion that I can imagine. All of these tools are there. It can transform, and it can be part of our strategy as we move forward. So, am I over my time limit?
That's good.
No.
That's perfect. That's a perfect summary. Go ahead, Maurice.
Well, so let me just thank you, Pete, for doing the research. I just want to add a couple of, I guess you could call it questions, and I'm always keying in on some of our younger veterans like Stacy and Cassandra, and what they think and how they feel about this. Let me just add another perspective, which is the why should we even care? Okay, what happens to the American Legion? It's always one of those forefront. What have they done for us lately? What can they do for us? And why is it even important that we take this moment, or that we attempt to work with them? Like I said, it's a little bit of a struggle, and it's almost like an uphill battle in some cases. I'm just going to kind of throw out there that I decided a couple of years ago to join the American Legion, and the lesson that I've learned in life is that if I want to be a part of any kind of change to anything, I'm not going to stand on the sidelines and kind of like discuss it if I don't know it. And so I went in, how they say undercover. Well, not necessarily undercover, but I joined just so that I can feel it. Like, okay, what's happening? What is the culture like? The whole 9 yards. And so I've kind of come to understand some interesting dynamics about it. I think the gripping aspect of it is, in terms of its resistance to change, is really rooted in fear. They're afraid to change, and they're afraid that if they change, they'll be left out. And so that seems to be at the heart of it at this particular point. But I just want to spend a moment, if I may, talking about why we should care and why is it important. And first and foremost, as Pete mentioned, the American Legion, just like VFW, Veterans of the Foreign War, are one of the few congressionally mandated or approved organizations or veteran service organizations. There aren't too many of them. What that means is that they are automatically invited to speak at Congress and represent us on numerous scenarios. We can talk about, what some of the legislation that they've been directly involved in on another time. But because of their status, they're giving advice to Congress, and so it's important if Congress is going to shape our benefits and our services and things that we get, then we need to have somebody that's a representative that can get the voice there. American Legion is one of them. And again, that special status is there. The other reason is that they have a large footprint. And I think Rich shared some numbers with us a couple of weeks ago that we're talking about somewhere upwards of 14,000 posts across the country and millions of members. And so there's a pre-existing network of people already out there that we have yet to tap into, mainly because of I guess you could say, the cultural differences. They also have a program that I found out a lot of the people within the American Legion don't even know about. It's called the Buddy Check. And the Buddy Check is kind of similar to like an annual muster where they're supposed to, each one of the posts is supposed to reach out to members and just check in with them and find out what they're doing and how they're doing it. They're not as progressive as we are with the musters, but it's an interesting thing that they have. And I see this group having the ability to deliver the one thing that I hear a lot of young veterans talk about, which is navigation and support. I hear that all the time. In fact, the research is 60% of the complaints is because of navigation, not getting enough information. Stacy and I, we were having a conversation just before we got on the call about her transition from the military to civilian life. It didn't go smoothly as she would like in the military, but imagine if there was a VFW that she could have been handed off to who carried her the rest of the way and made her transition a lot more smoother, surrounded her with resource and camaraderie, and made sure that all of her needs were met. She would have had a smoother transition. And so I see some inherent value in helping them survive and in helping them get back on their feet and becoming relevant. So I just wanted to add my perspective. I'd be really interested in hearing everybody else's perspective.
Who'd like to add some perspective, some comments, piggyback on some of the issues, especially those who have been close to transition?
The Buddy Check we need to make not just annual as it's listed in the papers or whatever, but really of the communities that each post that each legion serves, have a list and just follow up every so often, and to make sure our veterans are taken care of. And I really feel, first, I Stacy, my heart's with you. That should have never have happened. And part of this that we're working out is to avoid that. The My 365 is an excellent tool. We only wish it was implemented earlier, but we are trying to make up and put in the hands of those that have cell phones or devices those kinds of tools as we move forward. And this is part of that team of network, and we want to make sure that they have the tools, our veterans and transitioning members have the tools that they need, they can use, and that is relevant.
Hey, and I just want to share with you that Pete called me yesterday, and we had a good dialogue and discussion about the American Legion. And Pete asked me a very interesting question that I thought was timely, and something that again, some of us should consider. He asked me, Maurice, should I join the American Legion? And I thought that was a really good question. Which